Hello, everybody. We are Group 4, and our group has 5 members. And our topic today is climate change. First of all, I would like to introduce outline. The first part is climate change status, which we would give overview of climate change status and trends in Vietnam. The second part is the climate change impact, where we would identify the impacts of climate change to Vietnam's economy. And the final part is the policy implications, where we would suggest implications from mitigation as well as adaptation of climate change in Vietnam. So let's jump to the first part, which is climate change status. So we must understand what is climate change. According to Wikipedia, climate change is the change of climate and related components, including oceans, land, earth surface, and atmospheres, like increasing temperature, melting ice, or rising sea level. Vietnam is a vulnerable country to climate change impacts. According to the annual assessment of the countries most severely affected by extreme weather events, Vietnam ranked 5th in the Global Climate Risk Index in 2018 and 8th in the Risk Index Long-Term Climate Risks. New records are still set each year. The terms record rain, record heat, or record flood have been appearing more and more on the mass media in Vietnam in recent years. 2017 is considered to be a record year of natural disasters in Vietnam, with more than 16 floods, 16 storms, and historical floods. 2018 also recorded record temperature for the past 46 years in Hanoi, with the highest temperature sometimes reaching 42 Celsius degree. Sea level rise is also one of the typical climate change phenomena in Vietnam. Data of Hangzhou National Station recorded within 15 years of sea level rise of about 20 centimeters. Um, Climate change developments in Vietnam include extreme weather events that are increasing in frequency and are often difficult to predict. The highest monthly rainfall increases from 270 millimeters to 281 millimeters in the period of 18 years, while the highest monthly temperature increases from 27.1 Celsius degree to 20.5 Celsius degrees. Salinity intrusion, which resulted from rising sea levels, has also increased. According to the 2009 Mekong River Delta Climate Change Forum report, salinity intrusion is reaching further inland and affecting wider areas of the region. Here is a chart of the salinity intrusion in Mekong River Delta in 2018. Um, uh, Next, we will get to know the climate change trend in Vietnam. According to climate change scenarios in Vietnam, the annual average temperature will increase by 20 Celsius degree in 2018 compared to the current average temperature, which will result in the increased number of heat waves and annual number of hot days. Average sea level could rise by 35 centimeters by 2050, and the rainfall in the rainy season in most areas, especially in the central regions, will increase by 5 to 10% at the above-mentioned time points, but the dry season rainfall in many regions can decrease by 5%. So the flood situation in rainy season and drought during dry season in some areas can be more serious. Saltwater intrusion in the Mekong River Delta during the dry season is forecast to enter local rivers about 30 to 40 kilometers deeper than the annual average. So now we will talk to you about the impacts of climate change in Vietnam.
So is my part talking about climate change impacts on Vietnam. First of all, agriculture is one of the industries that are directly and adversely affected by the climate change. Agriculture accounts for about a quarter of Vietnam's GDP and is the main livelihood of 60% of the population. The impact of climate change on agriculture is reflected in the problems of agricultural lands, plants, livestock, their survival and development, water supply difficulty, and natural disaster affecting agriculture production. Um, the first impact is on rice. The projected dry scenario will lead to reduction in yields ranging from 12% in the Mekong River Delta to 24% in the Red River Delta. The growth period of rice in winter and spring is really sensitive to temperature. For the Mekong River Delta, it is estimated that about 590,000 hectares of rice could be lost due to inundation and saline intrusion, which accounts for about 30% of today's rice production in the region. So annual rice output may drop by several million tons. The next impact on agriculture is the impact of sea level rise. Due to rising sea levels, arable lands across the country will be significantly reduced. Millions of people living in low-lying areas would be forced to either elevate or abandon their homes, causing significant damage to the local and national economy. The next impact is impacts on growth and spread of detrimental pests. There is potential for a significant increase in the reproduction and spread of harmful pests, such as rice-feeding ear-cutting caterpillars, black cutworms, bark-boring beetles, fungi, amongst others, which thrive at higher temperature and in changing rainfall patterns. Um, the impacts on crop growth rates. Rising temperature would increase the crop growth rate and thereby shorten plants' growth cycle. A 1 degree Celsius increase in temperature would correspond to a shortening of the growth cycle by 5 to 8 days for rice or 3 to 5 days for potato and soybeans. Um, and there's another impact is the last impact is impact on crop geographic distribution. The distribution of hydrophytes may be altered by changes in rainfall intensity, and more frequent floods and droughts. The potential intensification of water shortage for agriculture and increased evapotranspiration would decrease the cover area of hydrophytes. Now to the next impact is Chi part.
Okay, so the next impact is impact on aquaculture. Aquaculture, especially in the Mekong River Delta, is an important source of employment and rural income. Higher temperature, an increase in frequency of storms, sea level rise, and other effects of climate change are likely to affect fish philosophy, physiology and ecology, as well as the operation of aquaculture. Some fish species, such as catfish, may grow more rapidly with higher temperature, but will be more vulnerable to disease, and that would cause a major backdraw to exporting them to other countries. The main impact of climate change on aquaculture seems likely to be the consequences of increased flooding and salinity. People don't have fresh water for their daily lives or their livestock, and all economic activities were affected. And soon those people will leave said area and move to other place to start a new life and to uh, pursue other jobs, and that area will be abandoned. Um, Other impact on economy, the International Monetary Fund estimate that Vietnam's economic growth may fall by 10% in 2021 due to climate change. Vietnam coastline is 3,200 kilometers long, and 70% of its population lives in coastal area and low-lying deltas. Given the country's conception of concentration of population and economic assets in the exposed area, the negative impact on industrial production and economic growth could be unimaginable. A 1 meter rise in sea level would partially inundate 11% of the population and 7% of agricultural land. Also, extreme natural disasters have caused huge Vietnamese casualties and property damage. Approximately, Vietnam suffered from 5.2 million of USD from natural disaster caused by climate change. Moreover, current and future domestic infrastructure is influence. For example, the physical asset of road infrastructure will be vulnerable to climate change impacts based on the existing road inventories and provincial allocation. 1 meter SLR would eliminate and hence destroy 19,000 kilometers of road in Vietnam, which is equivalent to 12% of existing road stock. Reportedly, rebuilding these damaged roads would cost approximately 2.1 billion USD. And the next part will be presented by Chang.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about some policy implications on climate change. The first, I'm going to talk about the mitigation policies on climate change. So here are some legal documents and policies on the mitigation of climate change. Some of them are law on environment, law on economical and efficient use of energy, national climate change strategy, national green growth strategy. And Vietnam will continue to develop policies that create favorable conditions for investment in mitigation activities. So next, I'm going to talk about some measures to achieve the greenhouse gas emissions mitigation targets of the INDC. So the first measure is to strengthen the leading role of the state in responding to climate change. This means integration of climate change into development strategies and development plans. The second measure is to improve effectiveness and efficiency of energy use, reducing energy consumption by energy savings and efficiency, renewable energy applications in the residential sector and services, and also by developing public passenger transport and establish standards on fuel consumption. So the next measure is to change the fuel structure in industry and transportation, which is assuring national energy security by developing and exploiting different energy sources while simultaneously using energy sources effectively. So the next and renewable energy consumption includes developing mechanism research the advanced technology exploit reducing greenhouse gases through the development and agricultural production. The next measure is to manage and develop sustainable forests, enhance carbon sequestration and environmental services, conservation of biodiversity associated with livelihood development, and income generation for communities and forest-dependent people. The next measure is waste management. This means to develop waste management planning and enhance waste management capacity, promote reducing, reusing, and recycling waste, and also to research and apply advanced waste treatment technologies and deploy modern waste treatment technology in urban and rural areas. And the next one is communication and awareness raising. This includes promoting, educating, and raising public awareness of greenhouse gas mitigation activities. And last but not least is enhancing international cooperation. This means to enhance cooperation in scientific research, in information exchange on the formulation and implementation of policies, and in the basic content of climate change strategies and policies, and also to enlist support from other countries in terms of research and finance. And the next part is going to be about adaptation policies.
In my presentation, I will tell you about the adaptation policies. First of all, here you can see on the slides, climate change adaptation until 2020 is reflected in the following strategies, programs, and action plans. Some of them are law on natural disaster prevention and control in 2013, and national climate change strategy in 2011. The second part of my presentation is Vietnam aims to minimize the loss of life and property due to climate change. The climate change adaptation priority actions for the period from 2020 2021 to 2030 include the first step is responding proactively to disaster and improve climate monitoring. Firstly, develop the assessment and monitoring system on climate change and sea level rise, modernize the hydrometeorological observability and forecasting system to ensure the timely forecasting and early warning of weather events. Secondly, implement disaster prevention plans and measures to protect people's lives and ensure national defense and security. Furthermore, the government should consolidate and develop priority and urgent disaster prevention projects. The second move is ensuring social security. Firstly, review, adjust, develop livelihoods and production processes that are appropriate under climate change conditions and are linked to poverty reduction and social justice. Secondly, develop mechanism, policies, and strengthen the insurance system and share climate and disaster risk. Also improve regulations and technical standards for infrastructure, facilities, and housing that are appropriate under climate change conditions. The last action is responding to sea level rise and urban inundation. Firstly, implement integrated coastal zone management. Secondly, use sea level rise scenarios and in urban and land use planning for infrastructure, industry parks, coastal and island settlement areas. Thirdly, is consolidating, upgrading and completing coastal sea and river dyes. The last one is control saline and water institution in the most severely affected areas. Thanks for listening.